Hello, everyone. This is High Strings, and recently I've been playing a lot of Peak. I've really been enjoying the game, really enjoying playing that with friends. I've gone through all seven ascents. I've climbed the mountain about 40 times. I've gotten all the achievements, all that stuff. So I would thought that I've been seeing a lot of people talking about the items in Peak, whether they're good or not, whether they suck, what should you do with them, and I thought that I would just throw my 2 cents in just to give how I evaluate items, to maybe tell you a little bit of my play style, and yeah, let's just jump right in. So as far as evaluating the items goes, I will be considering a normal difficulty Peak run and playing with at least one other person, so 2 to 4 players. I will maybe mention how good an item is in solo, but generally that will be the parameters that I'll be talking about this. So peak difficulty, 2 to 4 players. We will start off with the chain launcher. So the chain launcher is an item where you can point it at a spot of land or a spot on the mountain and fire a chain that will connect your current spot to that location, and then you can climb straight across. I think that this is honestly one of the best items in the game. So even though it was recently nerfed about a month ago when I was recording this video, you can no longer point it straight up and then just create a giant, like 50-meter chain that you can climb. It can still give you about, probably on average, 10 to 20 meters in height and really get you to a spot on the mountain that you could not get to otherwise. So say you're in the kiln and you've reached a dead end, but you can see a better path on the other side of the mountain. You can just fire straight across and climb across, and then you just effectively saved yourself a bit of backtracking or gotten yourself to a spot that you couldn't otherwise get to. I think that it's an excellent item. It is something that your entire team can use. It is just overall fantastic. All right, next we have the lollipop. So the lollipop is a food item that will heal 5 hunger, but that's not its main effect. It will then give you a sugar rush that gives you infinite stamina for 8 seconds of climbing or 11 seconds of sprinting. So you can just use it to really spam up the mountain. The downside is that it does give you a sugar crash afterwards, but the sleep damage goes away pretty quickly. I would say that this is one of the best items for an individual player, especially during a solo run. It can give you a pretty solid amount of distance. In a multiplayer run, it is less valuable, I would say, just because it only helps one player. So if you're getting past something that you couldn't do otherwise, there's a good shot that your friends probably can't do it either. But you can combine this with other items like, say, a rope spool to go up a difficult climb and then drop a rope for your friends. So I would say this is probably an A tier item. Or say that you fall down and then you get hurt and you're finding some trouble climbing back up. I would say this is an A tier item. Just very solid for getting you past a little bit of a tricky hump. Yeah, I would say that's really good. So the flare is Garbo. Straight to F tier. Obviously, it is mandatory in Ascent 4 plus runs, where it will obviously be Bing Bong tier, where you literally have to carry it no matter what, because otherwise you just can't win the game. It is literally mandatory. But otherwise, it is probably one of the worst items in the game. It does not do anything except make a smoke plume at your location, the location that you throw it. So when you're doing that, I mean, that doesn't do anything for you. So I'm not sure what you're going to do for it. At least it doesn't weigh anything, but there are better uses for your inventory slots. All right, next we have a Remedy Fungus. Remedy Funguses you can throw on the ground, and over time it will create a cloud of healing that will heal you up to 17.5 damage, or 7 ticks of damage. I think it's okay. It has some benefits over some other items that are coming up, like the bandage and the first aid kit. But in that you can throw it and it is used immediately. So if you're about to pass out and you pull this out of your bag and throw it on the ground, it does have the potential to save your runs if you have just a little bit of damage over your pass out threshold. But overall, I would say it's not great. It can heal your team if you've all taken just a little fall damage, but overall, it's okay. So it goes into C tier. Next, we have the bandages. The bandages have a 4-second use time, and they will heal you for 30 injury. So they kinda aren't great, in my opinion. They're something that is worth using if you are both injured and you happen across a luggage that has them in them. But overall, I would say that they're not super useful. Its 4-second use time makes it hard to save yourself with, and also it's honestly it's just not that good. 30 health is not that much. So I would say it's a D tier item. It's not something I would carry with me just in case. Um, Maybe if I'm really paranoid, we might want some person in the team carrying one just in case someone makes a mistake and falls off the mountain. But overall, I would prefer even the Remedy Shroom to this and most other items. Next, we have the Antidote. So the Antidote is an item found in the Tropics that will heal you for 35 poison, and it has 3 uses. Each use will heal 35 poison and 10 heat, although the heat healing is really just a bonus, because any drinkable in this item heals heat. So poison is not that dangerous of a status, I think. It is something that you only counter in the shore and the tropics, and in the tropics it's not something you should really be encountering all that much. You might take a couple ticks from a tick, you might need to climb across a spiky vine, but overall poison heals over time, so it's not something that you really need to heal immediately in most circumstances. There are some times where it might be helpful, but overall I'd say it's a very situational item, and I would usually not want or need it around. I would say I would usually leave Antidote behind. Alright, next we have the Lantern. So the Lantern is a starting item that spawns at the very beginning of the climb. In very high ascents from 5, 6, and 7, the night is cold and will give you constant ticks of cold damage. So the Lantern then becomes a very good item because it can prevent you from passing out due to the cold, and it just prevents that. It undoes some of the cold damage that you're taking over the course of a run. So in a Ascent 5, 6, or 7 run, it is S tier for sure. You should take it with you every single time. However, in a normal peak run, I would say it is Garbo. I think it's the highest F tier item in that maybe it has some uses in Alpine if you really are starting to freeze, but I would say Cold is the least dangerous status in the game. And even in Alpine, there are better opportunities for healing Cold. Speaking of, we have the Fairy Lantern. So the Fairy Lantern does exactly what the normal Lantern does, but it also heals basically every negative status except for Curse. So it heals heat, it heals cold, it heals poison, it heals drowsy, and it heals injury, and it does that in an area of effect around your team. So basically, this is just a Remedy Fungus, but way better. I think that still, carrying it can be a little bit of a hit and miss. I think it's a B tier item along with most healing items. It can maybe save your life a few times, but a lot of these statuses aren't super deadly, and if you're playing the game well, you shouldn't need a whole lot of this kind of stuff. Again, in a peak, again in an Ascent 5 or beyond scenario, this is S tier easy. But here in a normal peak run, I would say the Fairy Lantern is B tier in terms of not being something that you really need or would love to see most runs. Next, we have the Portable Stove. So the Portable Stove, you can place it down and then cook whatever you find, whatever you have on you. So the Portable Stove is, I think, one of the less good items. Usually what you want to be cooking is food. So it might come in handy for the odd items that you scavenge throughout your run, but overall, it's not something I find very useful. If I find it and I have some items that I've scavenged or foraged, I will just plop it down and then get some extra stamina with it. But overall, I think it's a D tier item. It's almost never something I would carry with me unless I really just had no other items in that inventory space. But even then, it's a 5 weight item, which is a fair bit. Most items are either 2.5 or 5 weight. So this is 2 ticks of weight, and I would just say, if I see it and it's useful, I would use it. Otherwise, leave it behind. Alright, next we have the Medkit. So the Medkit is basically an upgrade to the bandage. It heals both poison and health damage, and it heals up to 100 of each, so an entire bar. It does take a little bit longer to use than the bandage, but it is honestly one of the better healing items in the game. I would say that usually I would want at least one person in the party to be carrying a first aid kit with them. I think that overall a fairy lantern is a little bit better just because it has a little bit more versatility in the things it can heal. But the first aid kit is certainly more common than the fairy lantern and is usually worth taking around. So I think it's a solid B tier choice. Alright, next we have the heat pack. The heat pack is only found in Alpine, and it for 60 seconds after you use it, it will heal up to 360 cold. This is a good get out of jail free item in the Alpine because sometimes you can just find yourself committing to a really far climb and then just getting hit with a blizzard and then you're just kind of screwed. But this can save your life. But I would say that a lot of the time you'll want to be choosing routes in Alpine that avoid those kind of blizzards. If I have space for it, I will take it with me because it can save your life. But I think that it goes with the other situational items like the Remedy Fungus over here, maybe just a little bit better because its effect is more instantaneous and will save you right away. But overall, I think it's a C tier item. Only useful in the Alpine, and otherwise totally just throw it away. Alright, the normal bugle. As much as I love this item and want to put it into Bing Bong tier, I think it's more just a comedy item. Its only real use is calling out to your friends to tell them where you are if you get separated, just to let them know that you're okay without having to scream into your mic left and right. So I would say beyond that, it doesn't really have a use. So I would put it honestly in F tier. As much as it hurts me to do that, it's got to be F tier. Alright, next we have the Bugle of Friendship. So the Bugle of Friendship, it has a few uses, but whenever you toot it, it will give everyone in the vicinity infinite stamina for as long as you're playing the Bugle of Friendship, with the downside of it only having about 6 seconds of use, if I remember correctly. So this is actually a pretty good item. So you can really selectively toot the Bugle of Friendship just to give your friends some really, really strong climbs, really. The downside of it is similar to the lollipop in that it doesn't help the person who uses it. So it can combine really well with the lollipop, or as we'll get to it, the energy drink. But I think that it's a really solid item and it's worth taking along if you are feeling friendly. Right, Compass. Sucks. F tier. So it really has one single use, and that one use is if you are thrown into the canyon in Mesa and you don't know which way is forward, then it does have that use, I guess. But really, you should know where you're going. If you're going up in Peak, you're probably going towards the summit. The only exception to that is Caldera. So it's generally kind of sucky. I hate the compass. It's garbage. Pirate's Compass. For a mystical item, same deal. It sucks. You can usually see luggage. It's really not worth taking along. I don't find myself really needing to hunt for luggage that hard. F tier for sure. Maybe just a little bit more useful than the normal compass because it can lead you to other items, but otherwise it sucks. It's bad. Alright, the Scout Effigy. The Scout Effigy is a mystical item that revives one scout at the location that you use it. So if this can be obviously a saver for a friend that fell into the lava in Kiln, or misjudged a climb, or got rained on in the tropics or something, obviously the power to bring someone back at will rather than at the statues is pretty powerful, and it does have the notable exception on Ascent 7 as being the only item that can revive players. I think that overall it's a pretty situational item. You really should not be dying that much in Peak. The only real times that you die that aren't your fault are in the Mesa when you get hit by a tornado. So there are times, of course, where the Scout FG will be useful, but I would say that overall it's a situational item. It's just saving your friend from having to take a back seat and waiting for you to get to the top of the biome. So I would say it's a C tier item. Alright, Scoutmaster Bugle. The Scoutmaster Bugle will give all of you plus 100 extra stamina, your entire team, with the downside of summoning the Scoutmaster, who will chase you for 2 minutes. While the Scoutmaster is definitely avoidable, I don't see much of the point of using this item ever. I would say that honestly, the Scoutmaster Bugle is F tier. It is really not that hard to scavenge in Peak to get to up to 100% extra stamina. Beyond that, I would say it's a very high tier F tier item, but overall still an F tier item in that I would never really want to see it, and I would certainly never be the one who uses it. Alright, next we have the Magic Bean. The Magic Bean is an item that when you throw it, it will create a beanstalk from the that grows from the location that you throw it. And this beanstalk can come out of walls to make a platform. It can come from the ground, and then as it grows upwards, you will climb up it at double speed, so it saves you some stamina and gets you a little bit higher climb. And just generally, it's a very useful item. I would say it's one of the best items in the game. Maybe not quite S tier, but it can definitely split an unmanageable climb into a very manageable climb, and that's a very valuable item to have. And in addition, it's an item that your whole team can use. So it's not something that you just, it's not a selfish item like the Lollipop, although the Lollipop will give you a little bit more height. The Magic Bean helps out your whole team. It's very good, A tier. Alright, Bing Bong. Bing Bong tier. Rope. So rope, also a very good item. It is a item that is mostly used in a multiplayer context. It does have some uses for single player in giving you just a tiny bit extra height, but overall it's an item that if you have a friend who's a little bit more hungry than you, who doesn't have as much extra stamina as you, or if you just want to use an item like the Lollipop to give yourself a little bit of extra height, or the Friendship Bugle, your friends can help you out by dropping a rope for you to help climb that difficult stretch. Overall, it's a very strong item. So its uses are that you can use it multiple times. You have up to 12.5 meters of rope in one spool, and you can split it up however you want to use it. You can use just a couple meters if you just need that extra little inch, a little nudge to get to the top of a climb, or if you need to use all of it just to really split a climb into something manageable. It is very useful. I would say that overall it's an S tier item. Rope is very good in Peak. Alright, a Cursed Skull. The Cursed Skull kills the user, so it literally just instantly kills them, but it will remove every negative debuff for every player within the biome, basically. So, except for Curse. It doesn't heal Curse. But everything else, it heals. So, this item is bad. You don't want to die. Obviously, there are situations where you can sacrifice yourself to save your teammates who are otherwise just going to die, but you just die. It's not good. It's not a good item. If you have a Scout effigy, maybe it's more useful, but having two very rare items together is not something you can really count on. So maybe if these two were more common, they would be maybe higher tier, but in the situation that the game is right now, both of them kind of suck. So yeah, I would not use the Cursed Skull, or yeah, I would not use it. Anti-Rope. So anti-rope is one of the items that has negative weight. It has negative 2.5 weight, so it actually decreases the weight of your backpack when you carry it. It has a difference from the normal rope in that it you tie it to the ground and it spools up rather than spools down with gravity. So it does have some uses, sometimes where it's better than normal rope and sometimes then it's worse than normal rope. I think that overall it is an item similar to the Magic Bean in that it is a very team-focused item to get yourself up an otherwise very difficult climb. Maybe just a little bit less versatile than the... Well, I'll take that back. Because you can split the anti-rope into multiple segments and get multiple uses out of one anti-rope, I'd say it's a little bit better than the Magic Bean. Maybe even a little bit better than the Lollipop. So I'd say the anti-rope is something that I usually take along with me. It does have some difficulties in that if you need to do a jump and then climb a wall, it can be a little bit more less useful in that situation. But overall, there are a lot of times where I'd say that anti-rope has gotten me past an otherwise impossible climb. Right, Piton. The Piton is a very good item. I would say similar to the Magic Bean in that you can climb halfway through a wall. hold right click, and it just places the piton right on the wall where you placed it, and then you can hang off of it, regain your stamina, and continue the rest of the climb. I think the piton is one of the better items in the game. I usually will carry it along with me if I have it. I'm split a little bit between A and B tier. I think it's a little bit worse than the other items in A tier, like the Friendship Bugle, like the Magic Bean, but I think it's still worthy of being called A tier just because of the versatility of pitons. And speaking of items that will help split up a climb into manageable parts, we have the Shelf Fungus. The Shelf Fungus, you can throw it at a wall just like the Magic Bean, and it will create a platform for you to stand on. It lacks the versatility of the Magic Bean, but in practice, it's usually very similar. So I would say it's very similar to a piton, very similar to a Magic Bean in its use, in that it's something that you will like to see quite often. I think it's a very solid item. All right, the Blowpipe. The Blowpipe is one of the better healing items in the game. I would say it's even better than the Fairy Lantern, because when you hit a teammate with it, they will gain 100 sleep, but it will cure all of their other conditions except for Curse. So if you hit a teammate with this who's really hurting or about to die, it can save their life. It is very good. I think it's a solid B tier item in terms of being able to save a run. Alright, the Rope Launcher. The Rope Launcher is just a rope, but I think in some ways better. So you can fire it at the side of the mountain, and it spools 10 meters of rope down from where it impacts the mountain. So it can give you it can get you past a really nasty climb, and it's an entire team used item, and it's just generally very good. I think it's solid S tier. And similarly, the anti-rope launcher is just the rope launcher, but in reverse. You can hit the side of the mountain, and it just spools straight up. I think that maybe it's just a little bit harder to use than the rope launcher, but in practice, they're almost identical. All right, so now we're getting into food. So food in general is an essential item in Peak, obviously. So you need to climb, you need to heal hunger because it ticks up over time. And airline food is one of the better healing food items in the game. So airline food heals 40 hunger and gives you 40 bonus stamina. And if it is cooked, it will give you 60 bonus stamina instead. So I would say that mostly this is a solid item to have along if you want to have one or two extra food items with you. It is very rare that you will get all 40 points out of this hunger. Rare that you will want to wait until your hunger ticks up that much before you use it. But I would say this is an item that I will regularly take along and at least have one of. In general, I like to have one food with me, and generally it's the best food that I can find. All right, next we have the Granola Bar. Granola Bar will heal 15 points of hunger, and it will give you 10 bonus stamina. If you cook it, it will give you 30 bonus stamina. So in general, it's pretty good. We definitely like items that give us extra stamina, and there's definitely no downside to the Granola Bar, but it's not an item I would as commonly carry with me. I would usually eat it when I find it. If I need to cook it, I'll cook it. If I don't, I won't. I'll just eat it right away. All right, the Yellow Kingberry. While the Kingberries heal 30 hunger, the Yellow Kingberry is poisonous, and it will deal 25 poison to you over 10 seconds. You can cook it to heal 60 hunger, but unless I'm going for the Cannibal badge, there's almost no situation I've found where you really need to be healing 60 hunger at a time. Plus 25 poison is quite a bit. Healing you 30 hunger and then giving you 25 poison is not a very good outcome. So I would say I usually avoid Yellow Kingberries. I think D tier is solid spot for them. Green Kingberries are also poisonous, but only slightly. So they do heal 30 hunger, and same thing as otherwise. Cooking it doubles the amount of hunger it removes. And it gives you, 5 poison. 5 poison after you eat it. So 5 poison is not a lot. If you're very hungry and you need something to save your life to make a climb, I think that there's no harm in eating a green kingberry if you find one. I would say this is a good C tier food, just overall C tier. All right, next up we have some berry nanas. Berry nanas, yellow berry nanas rather, are very similar to the granola bar. They do not give you bonus stamina unless it's cooked. So I'd say this is a good one for just a solid C tier food. If I see a berry nana, if a yellow berry nana, and I'm hungry, I'll eat it. All right, pink berry nana. It heals the same amount of hunger as the yellow berry nana, 15, but it also gives you 15 poison. So it's just kind of bad. Healing the amount of hunger that so there are times where I would eat a yellow berry nana if I know I had an easy climb coming up and I just wanted to get rid of my hunger, because poison goes away but hunger does not. So I'd say it's still a D tier fruit in terms of, because it gives you 15 poison for 15 hunger. It's usually not worth eating, but in the situation where you want to eat something, there are worse things to eat, I guess. All right, we have one of the best food items in the game next, the blueberry nana. The blueberry nana is lighter than the airline food, but heals 30 instead of 40. So instead of being a 5 weight item, it is a 2.5 weight item, which makes it one of the best healing items per weight in the game. I'd say that even if I find a blueberry nana, I would carry it maybe not quite as much as the airline food, because the airline food gives you that bonus stamina where the berry nana does not. But it's still a very good food item that I will definitely carry with me for a climb if I had the space for it. Brown berry nana is okay. It's definitely an upgrade from the yellow berry nana in that it's very similar to the granola bar. It will give you 10 points of extra stamina and heal 15 hunger. The granola bar, as a reminder, gives you 20 points of extra stamina, so it's just not as good as the granola bar, but definitely giving extra stamina is a solid thing. So if you are low on extra stamina, definitely worth eating a brown berry nana right away. Alright, the beehive. So when you pick up a beehive, bees will chase you until you either get very far away from the location that the bees are, or you throw it on the ground and it breaks into honeycombs. So I don't see much purpose in carrying a beehive around. So honey is a quite good food, but in terms of the beehive, it will break apart into 4 pieces of honeycomb when you either throw something hard at it or you throw it hard at the ground. I think that because of the difficulty of picking up a whole beehive, it would be worth putting it in C tier. It does have the benefit of giving you this honeycomb when you throw it, but I don't think it's that worth it. Honeycomb is a very nice food. It gives you a ton of extra stamina. If it is uncooked, it gives you 50 extra stamina. If it is cooked, it gives you 75. So it will give you almost a full bar of extra stamina when you use it. I think that this makes it a very good food for carrying along, just because it gives you that solid bonus stamina. I know I put the beehive down here, but I don't like carrying the beehive. I will definitely use and carry honeycomb when I have it. In fact, just because of the use of honeycomb, I would say that the beehive can be moved up just a little bit. Right, the energy drink. Another one of my personal favorite items. The energy drink will heal a little bit of heat, like every drink does in this game, but its main effects are that it will give you 50% bonus run speed for 11 seconds, or 150% increased climb speed for 8 seconds. I think that this is honestly one of the better items in the game. I would pair it very near to the lollipop because they have very similar uses. But in general, the energy drink and the lollipop as one are very solid solo items, and then they can get you past a really nasty climb without even needing to think about it. So very good, very good. The tick. The tick is a funny item. It will spawn on you sometimes while you are in the tropics, but it is actually a very good food. It heals 20 hunger for some reason. I don't know why, and it is 2.5 weight. So if you find that you have a tick on you, I mean, it's a solid C tier food. Alright, the yellow clusterberry. So this heals 10 food, and it gives you 10 energy. And as always, you can cook it, and it gets a little bit better. Not super remarkable. It's just it gives you a little bit of bonus stamina, but otherwise, it's just kind of something that you eat when you find it. Right, the green crisp berry. So the green crisp berry is a 2.5 weight item. It heals 5 hunger and inflicts 10 points of damage. In general, it's kind of sucky. I don't like items that deal more poison damage than they heal in hunger. I may occasionally eat them if I find myself looking at an easy climb and I just want to get rid of some hunger. But overall, they kind of suck. They're one of the worst foods. I would almost never, if ever, carry them along. They suck. All right, next we have the red clusterberry. Red clusterberry, it does heal you for 20, but it only heals 10 hunger. So it's a decent chunk of hunger, and the healing is fairly nice. I would say I would put it along with the orange clusterberry. It's maybe about, maybe even a little bit lower. I'd say just a little bit over the remedy shroom, in that it's an item that is fairly useful in both healing and curing hunger. Even in that case, I think it's unfair to put it beneath the items that just cure hunger. I think it's better than that. So I would rather usually have the extra stamina, but in that case, it's really not bad to have something that cures injury. Right, the black clusterberry. It is the same as the tick. Does the same thing. Like literally, they're identical. They're the same item. So we gotta put them together. I guess maybe this one goes a little higher than the tick because it doesn't poison you until you remove it. Right, the orange winterberry is next. It heals 30 heat and it heals 15 hunger, so it's just a solid item. Just a little bit better than the banana. I find the heat removal to not be super useful. Maybe there are some times in the caldera or the kiln where that will come in handy, but overall I think it's just a solid food item, just solid middle of the ground C tier. The yellow winterberry, however, you can find from the capybaras or rarely elsewhere. It heals 30 hunger and gives you 35 extra stamina, removes 50 heat, and removes 20 injury. So this is kind of like a cure-all in that it's definitely one of the best foods to be carrying around. I would say that even so far as putting it higher than the honeycomb. I don't know if any food is good enough to be A tier. I think that generally I will have as many of these items in A tier and S tier as possible, and then maybe one food item, maybe one or two, depending on the biome. But overall, I think it's decent. Yeah, the yellow crispberry is good. Yellow winterberry, excuse me. All right, the knapberry. The knapberry is basically a consumable version of the blowpipe, in that the knapberry will give you 100% drowsy, and that it will cause you to go to sleep, but it will heal every status except for curse. So you will go to sleep, but you will never die from eating a knapberry. In fact, that it will probably save you. I would say that this is a very high, maybe even an S tier item. I would probably carry a knapberry around just for safety in most times that I find one. I think they're very good. Being able to do that for yourself is just a very strong ability. Of course, if you fall in lava in the caldera, that's probably not going to save you. But a lot of situations where, say, if you fall off the mountain and you need something to save you now, that's a good thing to have. All right, the egg it's pretty much the same as the yellow berry nana. They're good to find in that they're one of the only things that you can scavenge from the caldera, but they're not remarkable. They're fine. All right, next we have the cure-all. Cure-all is one of the better items in the game, I think. The cure-all will heal 20 hunger, 35 poison, 35 injury, 35 basically of any 35 of any debuff, including it will heal curse. So it is one of the better items in the game, including you can cook it to gain bonus stamina. So it is something that I will carry along with me as a get out of jail free card, just in case. I'd say that this is an A tier item in that it's food and it's healing and its use time is low enough that you can use it in a pinch, and you can use it multiple times. So I would say that the cure-all is a solid A tier item. Not as much of a climbing benefit as the other items, but in general, very, very good. In fact, let's actually move the knapberry down to A tier. It's not a climbing utility like the others, so I think that only climbing utilities can go into S tier. All right, moving right along with the yellow crisp berry here. The crisp berries in general aren't great. The yellow crisp berry does give you some extra stamina, so it's certainly not a bad food item by any means. It's just one that you kind of just eat as you pick up. So I think it's just a decent C tier item. In relation to the red cluster berry, I think that's a fair place to put it. Because it only heals 5 hunger rather, and it heals 10 stamina. So it's just a little bit worse than the yellow clusterberry over here. Next, we have Pandora's Lunchbox. If there's any item that's going to save a run, it's the Pandora's Lunchbox. The speed of using it and the ability for it to be used multiple times in rapid succession is definitely going to be able to save some runs. Sometimes you just roll bad on the Lunchbox rolls and you just die, but overall it's a very high tier item that I would recommend taking along with you just for safety. Next, we have the coconut. Both types of coconut. Let's rank them in the same, basically. So, coconuts are okay. I mean, they're fine to have around. They're some of the earliest and easiest food you have access to. Generally pretty easy to cook because of their proximity to the crash site, and it's good to have 2 pieces of food in one inventory slot. That's generally pretty convenient. But generally, I'd say they're about the same as the yellow banana. So I would say they're just generic forgeable food. So the marshmallow you get, of course, whenever you complete a biome. Generally 1 per player, unless one person's really far ahead or someone dies or something like that. In general, this is going to heal about 40 hunger because there's almost always an opportunity to cook a marshmallow as you have it. Not so great on the bonus stamina front, but it's just generally a good item. It's not very heavy, heals a lot of hunger, so I would put it right next to the blue banana, just as a good thing to have. The medicinal root is certainly okay. It's just a generic food item that'll heal a little bit of poison, heal a little bit of health. Doesn't provide a lot of food. I think that it's generally okay if you happen across one and you're a little injured, but not something I would go out of my way to carry with me very often. Next, we have the Scorchberry. Scorchberry, it has downsides, obviously, in a general run. It is niche useful in that the fire damage that it gives you, the 25 heat, can offset the damage that you take from cold. In Ascent 5, it's a very nice find because this will only 1 or 2 Scorchberries can help you survive an entire night. But in a normal peak run, I would probably put it around low C tier. It has its uses, but it's generally more downsides than up. So in a Ascent 5 run, probably high B tier with the other food. Alright, a Purple Kingberry. Purple Kingberry is generally pretty good. They offer quite a bit of extra bonus stamina, 35 uncooked and 17.5 with cooked, and 30 food. So I'd say this is definitely worth putting up here along with the airline food. They're very similar in their features. Purple Kingberry just gives a little bit less than the airline food. Alright, the most generic food in the game, in my opinion, the C-est of C tiers is the red crisp berry. You just eat it when you find it. That's basically all you do for it. It just heals 5 hunger, and that's it. If you cook it, it gives you a little extra stamina. Alright, now we got the Trail Mix. Trail Mix is a food you can find in chests, of course. Gives you 10 food and 10 free stamina. So I'd say that this one is a solid... about the same as the yellow, the yellow clusterberry. So we'll rank them about the same. Alright, next we have what I think is the best food in the game, the Thick Mints, because it heals the same as a Trail Mix, but you get 4 uses, which makes it incredibly versatile, and that's also doubled if it's cooked. So you get 4 uses of 20 food for healing, and that versatility is just excellent for the Thick Mints. It's one of the best foods to carry with you just because you can keep your hunger bar pretty topped off. So I would put this probably around here as far as food items go. It's generally one of the best. Alright, I just noticed that I don't have a cooked bird in this list, so we'll just assume that this egg is a cooked bird. Cooked bird is just nice. It's nice to find. Heals a lot of hunger. I'm going to put it right here next to the next to the marshmallow and the blue nana. Alright, next we have the mushrooms that you can forage. So first we'll start off with the Chubby Shroom. The Chubby Shroom heals 10 hunger, and that's all it does. You can cook it like any other food to get some bonus stamina, but it just heals 10 hunger. If you're blind, or that's mean to say, if you have trouble differentiating the mushrooms, then it's the one that's always safe. I'm going to put it here just ahead of the Scorchberry because it heals 10 hunger. All right, next we have the garbage one, the Cluster Shroom. So I would say that just because of the potential for it to be poisoned, I would put it underneath the red crisp berry. But in essence, they're the same thing. They heal 5 hunger, and they can give you some bonus stamina when they're cooked. All right, the poison cluster shrooms, very bad. There are perhaps some times where you would want to eat one, but the fact that it gives you 40 poison damage is just such a giant downside that I don't think you can put it anywhere except for F tier. Right, the Bugle Shroom heals 15 hunger, which makes it better than the other mushrooms. Again, you have the downside of it perhaps being poisonous. This one's a little bit harder to tell if it's poisoned until you know what you're looking for. So it is better than the 10 health foods, but not quite as good as I think a banana, where it's always good for you. All right, the Poison Bugle Shroom. I think the problem with the Poison Bugle Shroom is that, well, yeah, of course it's poison, obviously, and it only heals 15 and it gives you 20 poison. So it makes it a bad food that goes into D tier regardless. But I think it's just, yeah, it's not bad. It's not terrible. There are times where you would want to eat one. There are times where you wouldn't want to eat one. But it's not the worst thing in the world. All right, the Button Shroom. Button Shroom is all right. It's just okay, yeah. Yeah, the Button Shroom, yeah. So the Button Shroom is just all right. It's a 10 health food. Really solid middle of the ground. Just because it has the potential to be poisoned, I'd say it's maybe just a little bit worse than the others, but nothing about it is like a huge deal. Next we have the Poison Button Shroom. I think it's fair to put it down here with the other poison foods. There are times where you'd want to eat it, there are times where you wouldn't. So yeah, it's generally you don't want to eat it. Alright, next we have the Bottled Water, or the Sports Drink. So this will give you quite a bit of extra stamina, just in general. It gives you 30 extra stamina. If you cook it, it gives you 40. So generally this is just a use when you see it kind of item. So I would put it just somewhere here in the middle. Generally extra stamina is nice to have, but it's not something you'll be keeping around. There are extra uses for the Caldera, where if you want to do extreme amounts of running across the bottom of the floor while the lava's down, you can get a little bit more distance because it heals so much heat. But generally, it's not bad. All right, aloe vera. There are, of course, no downsides to aloe vera, but there aren't that many upsides either. It's just kind of a bad sports drink. It doesn't give you any extra stamina. It just heals 50 heat, which probably is not going to save your life. And especially for how rare it is to see aloe vera, I think it's good to just put it somewhere in the middle of C tier. Not where it's going to cause any problems. Just kind of putting it in the middle of C tier. I think that's fine. Okay, Bling Bong. So Bling Bong is a very unique item, or Golden Bing Bong, or the Ancient Idol, or whatever you want to call it. Very unique item in that whenever you are holding it out, you cannot gain any negative statuses on your bar. But it has a huge weight at 40. So the problem is that carrying this thing around and getting through some of these climbs can be very difficult. And it also has the problem of it being quite a challenge for you to reach. I would say that during the day in the Mesa, it is very nice for you to have. But in general, I think the downsides of the extra weight that you have to carry put it as a B tier-ish item. I think that there are definitely use cases, and it can help you survive some of the nonsense in the Mesa. And it's just generally kind of fun to carry around, especially if you get tornadoed, like thrown all over the place everywhere. That's just sometimes the main way that I die in this game is because of that. So having the Golden Bing Bong is definitely something that can save you, but it's something that can make the game a little bit harder as you carry it forward. And certainly getting to the Golden Bing Bong is not always an easy thing either. So it depends. It depends. I'd say it has upsides and it has downsides. So I think just solid in the B tier. It's just a decent item to have. Not something that I would perhaps go out of my way every run to go get, but it makes for a fun experience. All right, next we have the balloon. The one balloon. So one balloon It takes up an inventory slot, but it reduces your current weight by 5. So it can help as if you're putting it in your backpack, if it's worth sacrificing an inventory slot for. I think that in general, that's pretty good to have. 5 is not a lot, though, so I would generally, let's see, where would I put this in relation to other items? I think that I would drop anything beneath this for a balloon. So I would say that's about where I would value the balloon. Anything below the balloon, I would say is I'd say reducing your weight is worth it for that. All right, let's move on. Next, we have the balloon bundle. So it's really just 3 balloons in one slot. It reduces your weight by 15 even when it's in your backpack, which makes it very good. Like, even just having one of these will decrease your weight so much that it's just really worth it, honestly. I'd say that this is a solid, like, high tier, even B or honestly A tier would be fair. Okay, next up we have the binoculars. Apart from the achievement, it's useless. Garbage. Doesn't do anything. Yeah, it's maybe just a little bit in this tier. The trumpet's a little bit better because you could maybe call out to your friends to let them know where you are. The binoculars have no such use. They're just kind of garbage. Like, even honestly, let's put them beneath the. Yeah, there we go. I think it's probably the worst item in the game. All right, the frisbee. Again, as funny as this item is, it's probably the most useless. I would say even worse than the binoculars. It only has the use for the ultimate achievement, the ultimate frisbee achievement, and beyond that, it's really just an item that can let you bully your friends. And I don't know if that's very fun. I think that, yeah, I would rather it didn't knock people over. Otherwise, it's just kind of objectively the worst item because it only has downsides and it does nothing else for you. All right, the red prickleberry. These are kind of annoying because they are the only things the only like salvageable food that appears in the mesa besides the very rare coconut and the yellow winter berries you can get from the capybaras. It has downsides in terms of them inflicting 10 thorn damage to you, but that thorn damage can be taken out if you have any friends. So I would say downsides make it unfortunate. I would put it maybe just a little bit higher than the scorchberry, but generally not a very good food. The gold prickleberry, however, heals a little bit of injury on top of that. It still has downsides, but the fact that it does heal, in terms of it giving you 10 thorns when you eat it, but the fact that it does heal 10 injury makes it just a little bit better. I would say just because it's kind of in the middle here, let's just say it's a pretty mid-tier food, which is strange given how rare it is. All right, the parasol, very fun item. It's not a necessary item for the run. It's nice in that you can use it to protect yourself from the sun in the mesa, and that it also kind of prevents you from taking fall damage when you have it out. It can save your life, certainly, but it's not something, and it definitely has some upsides that are making it nice, but I would not say that it is the thing that you need every run. I would say that it's a B tier item in that I will take it when it is presented to me, sometimes, but not always. Alright, next we have a cooked scorpion. Cooked scorpion are a food that you can cook using dynamite or using a fire, but you have to do it quickly, otherwise they will sting you in their hands. So they will give you 20 hunger, they will heal you for 20 hunger and give you 10 extra stamina. So it's a decent food. I think it's fair to relate it to the, well, it will probably be about a coconut. It's the same as a coconut, really, because if you cook a coconut, that's the same thing that a coconut gives you. So I would say that slightly worse than a coconut because it only takes up 1 inventory slot rather than 2. But yeah, I mean, I would take it. I'll eat them if I see them. All right, Scout Cannon. Despite the comedy potential for this item, it only, I find, really has one use, and that's crossing the canyon in Mesa. Beyond that, I think that it's more just an item that you joke around with. So I would say that it's a C tier item. It does have some uses, But yeah, not very great. While we're here, I think that it's unfair to put the scout effigy so low. I think that sometimes you'll have it over food. I think wherever I put the scout cannon is where I want to have the scout effigy as well. So I would say, I think just somewhere here in the middle. I think that it's fair to put it there, and that might be a little bit controversial, but I think that's fair. In fact, let's move aloe vera down just a little bit more. And let's shuffle these around. I don't think it's fair to have the poison foods worse than items that have no downside. I think that I think that's a little bit fairer of a setup here. There we go. And then we could probably also move these just a little bit higher as well. Well, actually, no. I would rather have food than these items most of the time. All right, moving on to our last item here, we have the sunscreen. So the sunscreen is an item which when you spray it, it creates a cloud of mist that protects you from the sunlight in the mesa for 90 seconds. So it's a very biome-specific item in terms of protecting you from the sun. I would say it's less save your life tier than the heat pack is, but the benefit of this one is it has multiple uses and can be used on your whole team every time. So I'd say that these two are about the same. Definitely useful items, definitely things that can help out, but not something. It's something that's going to save you a little bit of time rather than the heat pack, which is going to save your life. So coming down to everything here all together, we have our tier list. Of course, I'll scroll it back here. We have Bing Bong as number 1. We have the chain launcher, rope launcher, anti-rope launcher, and rope as number in the S tier, and so on from there. So yeah, thank you for watching, everyone. Let me know if you have any other opinions or if you think I placed something wrong. But this is about how I would place all the items in Peak. So yes, thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day.